Alrighty, and we are live with the first game of the day, York versus McMasters. And right off the bat, I just want to talk a little bit more about McMasters comp because I personally give a lot of praise to York's comp.
Hmm.
During draft as we're leading into the load screen here, but we deliberated off camera a little bit
Hmm.
more and kind of came to the conclusion that McMasters their comp is going to be significantly stronger early. And one point that I brought up is if York goes into mid game on even playing field, I think they do have the better comp. But it's going
Yeah,
to be hard to do that.
yeah. Because of the agency that you have in the top side with the Camille Viego and the Galio supporting, I think the skirmishes in River against the Hecarim that's pre-6 could go in the favor of the Viego. We talked about his clear speed, but my next question is, can he impact the map with his level 3, or will he try to just farm alongside the Hecarim? Because to get an advantage in the top side of the map, he would have to look to be active early, and so just really interested in PM's clear here and where he decides to take his first play.
Yeah, I think he definitely does look to gank early. Maybe topside, we'll see. He is starting a bot. Hecarim generally wants to full clear in most cases, and that's an advantage that Viego can take is, okay, you're going to full clear, I can gank uncontested, potentially. Obviously, if Hecarim's nearby and the gank doesn't go quite right, he can counter, so there's that
Hmm.
risk.
Yeah.
But again, even in a hard commit gank with Viego, he's going to heal a lot. And he still has access to his passive, even without his ultimate, so where he can consume that champion, get a little bit of a heal, become untargetable. He can do that pre-6, so it's not super risky to force a gank. And then obviously topside, it's Camille. It's super easy to gank for that.
Yeah, definitely. But I should shout out to Weshimansi, who we interviewed last week after he was just destroying top laner game after game with the Volibear. He was raid boss status, like Volibear rework status on this champion. But I assume that Aqua Anthony and New York University have done their research and seen that, and they'll know how to temper their aggression because I spoke to the 3v3 on the top side. The one piece that is really hard to fight against in the river is that Volibear, right? But he's easy to target and maybe burst. But he packs a punch on his own. So my eyes are on the McMaster University top laner there if fights do break out on that side of the map.
Yep, so far not much has happened. I mean, Volibear is pushing in. He is the stronger champion. Viego and Hecarim are topside. Right now, technically, Volibear is open to a gank, but we'll see what happens. Good trade by Camille. She found a window. There comes the Q by Volibear into a huge one-sided trade. That's what I'm talking about. We do
He
see a fight
flashed for
break
it.
out.
They
Bot
both
lane, Thresh
flashed.
hits a hook, but unfortunately gets CC'd under tower, take this tower shot into Ignite by the Rel in first blood. So the Q came out from Thresh. It looked like they were going to get a really solid trade. Unfortunately, there's so much CC between the Seraphine and the Rel that he got locked up under tower and then immediately turned around. We do see Viego looking for that early gank. I don't know if this will really amount to much. We do see teleports coming in to try to turn this. Hecarim is here for the counter. Unfortunately, Viego has dropped right away, coming up by Galio to see if he can find anybody as his Camille dies, but doesn't look like there's much to be done. Is forced to flash ult to survive.
Yeah, so a ton to recap here. Just a surprising outcome in the bot lane here with Seraphine getting first blood of all champions. Kudos to McMaster University, the duo, knowing that they are Philios Thresh, they should look for kill threat, but just the execution and a tower shot means that they get that. But on the top side, we saw Hecarim was able to full all the way to level 4, which means completing his Krugs and show up to that skirmish. So if you are the level 3 ganker in Viego in this case, you need to get there in the impact before Hecarim gets his level 4 and shows up. We also saw the Galio TP come in to try and trade, but at the end of the day, win over to McMaster University. And to start that off, both top laners flashing because of the kill threat that Volibear was able to generate after that really deep trade that we saw right before camera panned down.
Yeah, definitely 2 kills for nothing and 3 flashes down. It was a rough start for York, and we just saw we do see a potential gank angle coming here. in the mid lane from
Interesting.
Hecarim with the roam by Thresh. Luckily for York, Galio gets out. But, looking into that gank, and even after Camille came back, you saw how much damage Volibear does.
Yeah.
If he's able to get that Q off, obviously that lightning strike is going to come down and give him the shield. He has pressed the attack. He's going to proc that. It's so much damage. We saw Camille right before that gank happened go for a quick little trade. It looked fine. And then she walked up for another auto, and
that's a
immediately
mistake.
Volibear hits the Q, E, press the attack, proc, and she's 10% HP. It's crazy. And we do have replay coming in. Now, at this point, Vega was already in alone. Camille came in a little late here, and so he's 1v1ing that Volibear. He gets basically one-shot by the PTA Volibear, and Camille comes in a little too late. She's already chunked out from that poor trade she took just before this gank happened. They just didn't have the HP to work with, and if they were going to do anything, they had to do it together, because as we talked about, they can brute force the gank, but if it doesn't go quite the right way, and Hecarim's going to be nearby to counter, and Viego, Volibear 1v1ing anyone in the early game, Volibear's going to win.
Right, definitely. We talked about him as this strong kind of rock of a piece that they put in the top lane here, and it was like, okay, if you're going to focus my lane, I'm just going to take hard trades, and I do think the mistake was in the Camille. Once you get that Q2 trade off, you need to respect the answer Q trade from the Volibear. If you let him connect on that, then your play kind of fumbled. We also saw Venerated, I believe, was first to TP on the Orianna, so McMaster's first to strike, quicker to get members there, and using their Volibear.
We see a potential engage by the Rel, but Lantern right up at the Thresh means that Aphelios goes to safety. They do hook, not quite in the tower range, and Root comes onto Aphelios, takes a ton of damage. This is actually impressive to me to see how much damage the Seraphine Rel lane is pumping out. It looked like they wanted to fight there. Lantern got him to safety, but they still found follow-up CC in a huge chunk. It's like, okay, you think you're safe, but you're not.
Yes, putting on display the power of the Seraphine in the AD role. We talked about her flexibility as a champion, and I'm really happy that...
You see a face check. This might be a look. Doesn't look like they opt for it. They do back off. Q goes wide by Thresh. This means they have to retreat their position lane.
Yeah, and they're just going toe-to-toe with the Aphelios Thresh lane. They did get a kill early, but it's still kind of surprising to see that damage come out. And we talked off stream for a second. I mentioned that FlyQuest yesterday to open the LCS. Oh, I thought that could have been an angle. To open the LCS, they red side locked 1 and 2 Seraphine, Rel, and ran it in the bot lane. So it's really a combo that coaches and observers out there should be aware of and maybe take notes and look to draft in their games. As Seraphine with the 1 kill for York University. Is it like an AP Seraphine carry angle, or is it Moonstone and Chill? That's what I'm looking to find out.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, they have plenty of damage in Camille and Viego, and they have spread magic damage between Galio and Seraphine. They don't need Galio and Seraphine to hit incredibly hard. They just need to,
and it will be
to hit.
Moonstone, yeah.
Deal some relevant damage because Viego and Camille will follow up with the rest, and having the Moonstone, etc. support style items to enable Viego and Camille to play really aggressively makes sense. I would be surprised when we do see the component item for Moonstone come out, so it looks like that is going to be what it is.
To me, the consensus is it's always Moonstone, maybe unless you have another one on your team or something, but just interesting looking at the scoreboard and seeing it would appear that maybe you would want to play bot side, but since it's double support, I think you maybe are still looking to play around your Viego, Camille, and to check in with the junglers here. Viego is keeping up relatively well, only down 2 CS here to the Hecarim.
Basically negligible, but that top lane, though, 20 CS deficit makes sense given how poorly that gank went, and it's also a hard matchup-ish, at least.
Yeah, and does that take away their primary angle for York University, having that Camille be down in CS and possibly levels as well? Does that make the map easier for Hecarim to navigate?
Yeah, I think that gives, again, the last thing McMaster wants is York to enter mid-game on equal footing, and I still really think that's the only way York starts to run away with the game. That's clearly not going to happen at this point. I mean, since that gank went poorly for mid lane as well, right? There's another 20 CS deficit. It actually looks like 30 CS deficit, although Wave is crashing. Mid lane, that was a result of that gank as well. Potential engage here. Viego has come. That's actually a really solid stun by the Rel. There's not much that he could do. There's not much to say. Instantly stunned. Viego sitting and try, ready to capitalize on that. Not much.
Yeah, it was
counterplay.
It was just the flash R from Saving Light, connecting on Soaky Demon there, and I think, well, we could have a possible another skirmish. I just think the Aphelios there needs to be ready to flash if Rel flashes, right? If you trade flash for flash, you can maybe walk away in that situation. But if her R lands and sucks you in, the Viego just comes in and steals your soul.
Yeah, I think it's also, Rel being a relatively new champion, not really understanding exactly what to do.
Yeah, it makes it tricky.
I mean, she's been out, the newest champion is actually Viego now. It's crazy to think that there's been another champion since she came out. She's so new.
Yeah.
But I actually haven't seen her a whole lot. So I wouldn't be surprised if other players feel that way as well. She's getting very popular and competitive now, but I'm still getting used to her strengths, weaknesses, and how her angles that she can take.
Yeah.
So it may be a situation where Aphelios wasn't really comfortable with what she could possibly do in that scenario. But you're absolutely right. She's got to instantly flash. Again, you walk up, you're going to eat that Q from Volibear. This is a potential dive angle now. We do see Hecarim rotating through Try. Disable tower by the Volibear ultimate. She's just going to die. There's not much that can be done here. Tower is disabled. We do have instant TP. They're trying to trade. The Volibear is just too tanky. We do see tower aggro going to Hecarim. I don't think he will die at this time. It's fine. And you got to remember, they did double TP, from both sides.
Again.
So if Galio ever TPs, you got to bet Orianna's going to be there.
Yeah, both mid laners showing up again, and at the end of the day, McMaster University able to dive the Camille despite I thought she had a good R there to avoid some of the CC, but like you said, if Galio is going to TP, you can expect Orianna. That's both times now, both mid laners showing up in the top lane. Tells you how much focus these teams have in that lane. You want to get your Camille ahead. You want to punish the Camille, so it goes both ways here. And McMaster University coming out on top with another positive play. Almost salvaged by Gunyo there with his TP. He had a nice two-man taunt. Almost got him one. Almost got a second with some tower shots, but not quite enough. And McMaster University with a bit of a lead here.
One thing that you pointed out is if, despite York having a stronger team comp going to mid game, if and further on, just in ease execution, just in scaling wise, if they're on equal footing, which again they're not going to be. If Hecarim snowballs, it doesn't matter. He'll just run the game. Hecarim already has his Divine Sunderer. They're looking for a chunk under tower. Not going to be a dive because Volibear still doesn't have all. I mean, that play was not too long ago. They don't have cooldowns quite yet. But keeping this Camille out of the game. I mean, the only way they start to win this is if Camille can start creating pressure in the side lane at this point, because you have double Moonstone and Galio and Seraphine ramping up. There's, again, just more gold, early Herald Call, it's fine. I mean, they're not necessarily looking to dive quite yet. They're just trying to see what York does before they commit to it, because, again, they're waiting for those cooldowns.
Yeah, we see Viego is on the top side there, so is he going to stick around to protect the last bit of HP in the top lane turret, or is Volibear going to be able to chip that away? Do they want to take the 2v2, or does Viego want to continue farming?
Well, I mean, you absolutely can't take that 2v2, especially since one of the champions disables towers, right? If the tower is that low and the enemy team holds off on taking it, you know that they're waiting for that ultimate to be available. All right, she E's right out, so she doesn't take the lightning strike damage. And that actually is a lot of magic damage to take, so that trade wasn't as bad.
I think she's still getting magic shields, and that tells you how much damage that E does.
Exactly, yeah. Camille's shield is based off of the majority damage dealt by the target to her or in general, and that means that she's taking, again, like you said, primarily magic damage. Looking for the QE down. So this is where you trade. You see those cooldowns used, you can potentially trade. Now, obviously, the lane's too far gone at this point. She's not going to trade. Tower's gone. But if this were earlier, that's when you trade, and then you wait. And if those spells ever get used again, then you trade again. Your whole goal in that matchup is really just to get through lane phase and start ramping up. So once you get 2 items, you can start to contest Volibear in the side lane. But until then, it's like, eh.
I think Camille and Volibear both at 2 items exactly. Camille would run him down the long lane, but it's just not the story we're going to see today because Wetchamani is too good on this Volibear, and we just saw he got solo first turret gold to himself. That's like 600 plus gold in his pocket. He already has Chem Tank.
Yeah, he's running fast.
He's running CDR boots for more flashes. I love that combo, and like you mentioned, Hecarim is just farming away. He is down to Viego, so I'm not sure if he paid the price for being on the map or if that's
Well,
just
he
clear
did do a
speed
Herald,
interactions. Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
he did sit topside a couple times to make sure the Herald crashed. He also looked for a potential dive, and they did do the dive, right?
Yeah.
So I think it kind of makes sense if Heckram's doing Herald and calling it in topside, Vigo's going to be farming an extra camp or two during that time. It makes sense.
That does make some sense. And my eyes might be on the Oriana as the new target for York University with no stopwatch as we see an Engage.
We do see Engage coming in by the Heckram ulti actually reaches the back line. They're trying to target the Moonstone users. They actually do have double Grievous. Meanwhile, the box is denying any entry from York to the back line. Really good Shockwave gets two. They get chunked out. Heckram will fall down. Vego can't enter the fight. He's too low. Thresh Hook connects onto the last room, interacting member of that fight from York, and they go down as well.
Yeah, Sekiro. I think the interaction that won them the fight was Heckram's ability to use Onslaught of Shadows through the Seraphine ulti. He's uninterruptible, so it's just a free ticket right on top of Seraphine's face. I believe he was able to run the Seraphine down and almost make it out, and just that interaction alone with McMaster's lead was enough for them to win the team fight with everybody else playing pretty appropriately. But watch the Heckram.
If there's that Shockwave followed in by Aphelios, follow-up damage, and then Hook comes out here on the last surviving member who's sadly still in the fight. Vico is nowhere to be found because he's too low, but it looked like there might have been some interaction in that fight. I mean, on paper, York is really far behind. They just don't have the stats to fight on equal footing, but it wasn't explosive right away. There was, engage from both sides, and then suddenly that Shockwave comes in. Aphelios comes in with his auto attacks, Q, ulti combination, however you want to order those words.
The machine gun and
he's out right away. Goes back in. It looks like they want to take the 2v1. Volibear does have ultimate, and Deja Vu, double TP. Nope, Galio opts not to rotate. He's not too keen on trying this one again after how the first two went.
No, we saw Camille went to use a defensive E, but it was her Viego showing up around the corner that I think made her think twice and go back in, but she exhausted her mobility cooldown. So then Volibear, Wetchamani, decides, I'll take the 1v2 because I have Heckram as topside as well, or ETP on top of it, and we have a Deja Vu, like you mentioned, situation in the top lane where McMaster University is just there first, supporting this Volibear. And I gotta say, this Volley is really carrying the early topside. I think maybe despite his score, he's not getting the kills, but he is just a brick wall right in front of the plans of York's comp.
Now here's a replay. They do look here again, and it comes down to, the E misses. Now the play is definitely doomed. I think it was doomed to begin with, but you can't really look on the Volibear because he's too tanky. It takes too long to kill him.
Yeah.
And by the time you get him potentially low enough, McMaster's, their backup's going to be there. And they've shown throughout this game, this is the third TP in a row now, Naya play topside, that they're willing to protect that Volibear. If you're going to be looking, you need to be looking on more realistic targets. And when I say realistic, I mean squishy targets, right? Maybe give up a wave topside and hope that Camille can find a pick. They find another kill on the Thresh here. Galio channels the ultimate to try to guarantee the kill. I don't think necessary, but if you're York, you got to use everything you have at this point. You got to get if an opportunity shows itself, you blow every cooldown you have because you need to get a footing back in this game.
That's right. And we see PM picking up his second kill on the Viego here. He has Kraken Slayer completed. You called that, right? And possibly going into a Bork here. And it might have to be a Viego 1v9 as we see Red TP coming in.
Yep. Rel is just too tanky. I'm not sure. Oh, wow. That's right. You know what? Someone told me that, Heckram multi-dives in the backline. Not much else to be said here. They're still going. Volibear can tank these towers for days. So can Heckram. Heckram has a ton of healing built in. It doesn't really matter too much. But, you saw the Rel actually ate a lot of burst initially. Yeah. But, again, I haven't really played a Rel. But someone told me that when that shield breaks, she actually loses a lot of resistances. A lot of resistances attached to her passive ability is tied to that shield. I don't know if that's true. I haven't looked into it, but she did look like she took more damage once that shield popped.
Yeah, and it was just 3 members in the mid. So finally, McMaster, they farmed up a lead, and then they just shoved it right down mid lane. And there's no shame in just taking your Fed top and your Fed jungle and just running down tier 1 and tier 2 mid. That's one way to press the lead, and I didn't see anything go wrong there.
Yeah, the Orianna is huge.
Yeah.
One thing to point out. I mean, we've been seeing a lot of action from the Volibear and Hecarim, but I mean, Ori's been TPing every single time, been a part of these skirmishes, and it looks like she's been the one coming out with all the kills for the most part.
Yeah, my God, Venerated is low-key smurfing so hard. Have you seen an Ori with that KP? I mean, she's sitting at 11 of 12 here. She is acting more like a Galio than her opposition
than the
in
Gallia.
this game, just because of her TP. It's actually pretty crazy to see the coordination from McMaster and the usage of that mid lane TP and playing around topside has just been great.
Yeah, to York's credit, I mean, the Gallia pick, I mean, he has been trying. He's been present as often as he can. He wasn't present in the most recent skirmish topside because it was doomed. But he's shown up every single time. It just hasn't gone in their favor. But it's good that Orianna is matching the Galio at every chance, and luckily it worked out for them because now, you know, it's snowballed like crazy. She's huge.
Yeah, and we are now seeing some of the reasoning behind the first pick Orianna, right? She was taken on red 1, and yeah, when you see that pick so early, you're like, yeah, it's a safe laner. You know, you pick it blind because it's just good in every comp, but Venerated may be showing us that they are just prioritizing getting that champ in any case because he's insane on it, not because it's safe.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I mean, I feel like his lead is a byproduct of just being smart,
agree.
not necessarily his ability on the champion. You know, as a mid laner, your job is to kind of like the support in some cases, almost like a second jungler. You're supposed to impact the side lanes, keep mid priority, impact your side lanes, or help maintain vision in the river, etc. Which is again used by your side lanes. So your primary goal is to help side lanes, almost like a jungler is helping his laners. And that's what he was doing. You know, he'll be playing any other mid laner, but still making sure that he's TPing immediately to any sort of skirmish, he's roaming to any skirmish, etc. That he's making sure he's executing correctly in team fights. I mean, that is what I'm seeing, which is signs of a solid player.
Yeah.
If this can be replicated on a champion other than Orianna, you know, we'll see if they decide to target it. I think honestly, maybe if you target anything, potentially remove the Volibear just because of how hard it is to play into that top side, or how much pressure and priority that grants you in the early game. Maybe get rid of that, give them something else that maybe they like. Let's say McMaster still wants to get priority topside, then they end up picking something else other than Volibear. Hopefully that pick is a little more vulnerable than the Volley. Or maybe you change your picks up a little bit. You don't, you know, opt into the Camille, you opt into something a little beefier that's just going to hold the lane, and you really are playing towards bot mid at that point.
Yeah, but, you know, still shout out to York for drafting this, you know, comp with so much surprise punch in it, right? I see the theory behind it, but another weakness I'm seeing that I don't think we've covered in the comp now that items are coming through is we see that Volibear is able to go second item Thornmail, and I just think this is too effective against the comp coming out from York University with their main damage that's being the Camille Viego, because a Galio and a Seraphine in terms of
looking
AP,
on the Galio, ton of damage, Shockwave comes out, forces the flash.
That's nice. Flash 4 are there, but long story short, their damage over time threats are both AD, and I don't think there's enough AP to deal with Volibear, so he's going to be a walking brick house in this game, and who is able to just go second item full Thornmail with no regrets.
Yep, it's and obviously when those AD champions are you know, auto attack reliant, that Thornmail feels even better. Now, again, York, they have a solid composition. It's just a matter of having the gold and being in a position to actually contest. Luckily, they did pick up one dragon, right? So that stops the dragon stacking. But before we get to that point, we do see a Baron start here at 24 minutes into the game.
I think it's a take.
I'm sorry?
I think they just take it.
Yeah, they do just take it. I don't see York really getting in position in time. It looks like they have an idea it's up because I see them moving towards the river now. But at this point, it's a little too late. Thresh flashes out with his box. They're looking for the engage. Big Rel ulti comes in. Hecarim's on the backline. TP is channeled from McMasters to try and help at this fight. Seraphine comes out. Huge 3-man ulti onto McMasters. Surprisingly, York seems to be staying in this fight. Galio with a two-person taunt. They're actually getting some kills here. Viego has found some resets, finds their target on Thresh, gets another reset. And right now, it's just Raid Boss Volibear left alive. And honestly,
What?
McMasters comes out on top here with the Baron take and a quadra kill for Volibear, but York was out of this game.
Yeah.
They just killed 80% of the McMasters team. Now, obviously, again, it is a net positive for McMasters, but that is good for them. I mean,
yeah, it's just the Volibear is too much to deal with, and props to their comp. We see towards the end of the play, the Viego grabbing a triple here. We saw a massive Seraphine ulti extend across the entire river, hitting 3 members. Camille had a good angle onto Aphelios, who had to flash right away to avoid her slingshot. But at the end of the day, they could not DPS the Volibear. The members that do damage for York, the Camille and the Viego, cannot go toe-to-toe with that champion. And it's West Shamansi again on the Volibear with a quadra kill to just seal the deal for that fight for McMasters. But York University showing signs of life in their comp and the combos it can pull out.
yeah, that Rel engage, grouping everybody up, she's really hard to kill. Despite unfortunately, Viego kind of walks up and gets deleted from the game.
Yeah, good
With Dragon
sign.
coming up in 5 seconds, that does mean they're going to be sole point for McMasters, unless some crazy steal comes in from over the wall. But I suspect we won't be seeing that.
No, yeah, it looks like it's going to be Soul lined up at around 31 here for McMaster University, and York are probably going to have to scrape together everything they can to contest as we see a face check.
We do see an engage from York looking onto the Thresh to try to get something, but unfortunately McMasters is right on the other side of the wall here, ready to follow up. Volibear coming up behind the Camille. He does have ultimate available. He probably won't even need to use it. The tower is not going to deal damage to him at this point. And they were looking, but if you're looking, it's got to be somewhere where the enemy team is not. When you're this far behind, you want to find a target out of position unless you're confident you have the burst. Unfortunately, with how behind York is, I don't think they have burst. And even looking at their champions, they're not bursty champions to begin with.
Not much.
But I mean, at least they're
Camille.
trying to make plays.
Yeah.
I mean, it shows that they still have the desire to win and desire to be aggressive and not shell up and slowly bleed out.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that was the right angle to take.
I think they were hoping after Drake.
Shockwave
nice
comes in. They're
Shockwave.
looking for chunks in the back. I mean, remember, Volibear still has access to ultimate, so a good Shockwave means that Volibear can initiate a dive, disabling the towers, potentially an end angle. Unfortunately, it didn't really look like Shockwave did a whole lot of damage there. I mean, you are against Seraphine,
Right,
AoE
right.
Shield, Moonstone, etc. When they're all grouped up like that, it's nothing too crazy is going to come out.
Sage Knight on the rail here, trying to walk out the McMaster University members as they look for recalls. And
Yeah,
they
I mean,
find-
I think, Galliolti channels onto the Rel. They're looking for the engage. We do see Aphelios get
Aphelios
deleted.
down.
Unfortunately, Hecarim is terrorizing the back line, taking out Viego. He's actually, in my opinion, one of the primary DPSs that York needs to potentially salvage this fight. Camille
Yep.
does pick up another kill into Thresh. I mean, honestly, trading these kills is what York wants, but the
Watch
fight is
Camille
still
again.
going on. Seraphine ult, it was sandbagged this whole time, comes out late. I don't think they have the damage to kill Volibear here. Hecarim has another ult cast here. I believe I saw a cast not too long ago. And Volibear tries to get on top of the Camille with his ultimate. At this point, Camille's just running for her life. Fortunately for her, Hecarim is out of mana and can't get another E-charge there. I may be confused, but I thought I saw Hecarim ult twice in the whole trade there. Camille trying to buy some time. Her teammates are respawning. Viego is here. He does a ton of damage. But Oriana is still sitting back there. He gets deleted right away. It doesn't matter that Hecarim's Camille's looking for the stat kill onto Oriana while Oriana's team ends the game.
That's pretty rude.
We do have a freeze here.
It might be because they left the lobby or something. But it looks like it's going to be McMaster University taking away game 1. But Jin, it really looked to me like York was showing us how their comp works. They were putting together some of the combos, and they got a pretty free pick on the Aphelios. But at the end of the day, I think it was the Volibear's unkillable. And
Yep,
the
absolutely.
Hecarim went unanswered. You saw he was able to duel the enemy